Our monthly sales and marketing webinar by Occupancy Advantage. Today's topic is the power of focus. And I'm Mona Hilton, the CEO of Genesis Global Technologies, the authors of Occupancy Advantage. And I'd like to start by saying, welcome to March. How are your New Year's resolutions coming? Now, if you're like most people I talk to, the sparkle is starting to wear off. The luster is beginning to fade a little bit on our New Year's resolutions. And some people have even told me they don't remember what they were, which is probably not a real good sign. You know, the thing is, March is when health club traffic starts to wane. The diet commercials start to slow down a little bit. The excitement starts to fade as less and less people are talking about their New Year's resolutions. So that's why this is the perfect time. I want to intentionally refocus on the power of focus. You know, for me and a lot of people, the new year always starts with such promise and inspiration and hope and anticipation, but life gets in the way. So it's important that we continue to spark the flames of inspiration and keep those goals in front of us. Make sure that they're alive and well. You know, it's often been said, I think Zig Ziglar started this. He said, motivation is like bathing. It doesn't last forever. That's why it has to be done every day. Hopefully we do that. So today, I don't want to focus so much on why focus is important. With success, we know it's what it takes to make things happen. It's how we reach our goals. We get it. It's why you get so much more done the last day before vacation than you do for weeks working up to it. You know, focus is the best and often the only way to reach our goals. We've heard it before. I'm preaching to the choir. I don't need to convince you of why. Now, last month, we did a webinar called No Leads Left Behind, and I ended that webinar by talking about the power of focus. I showed you this picture of my daughter's basketball game. Now, season just wrapped up. Her primary sport is softball. If you've heard me talk about her before, you know how proud I am of her, and you get to listen to me brag. Well, this year, the high school basketball coach got a hold of her, asked her to try out for the basketball team. Now, granted, she's not exceptionally tall, and you can thank me for that, but the coach liked her speed, but most importantly, he told me he liked her focus on the court. So by now you've figured out that she did make the basketball team. She's the only ninth grader to make the varsity team. That was just kind of gratuitous on my part. And she even sometimes starts. I've watched the coach groom her. I've watched him condition her, teach her the plays. I've seen her work herself to the point of exhaustion. But most importantly, I've witnessed her laser focus on the court. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. During this particular game where I shot this picture, and I apologize, it's kind of blurry, but I was a little excited. Alexandra, who is circled here in white in the red, stole the ball from the opposing team on their end of the court, and she headed like crazy to our end of the court with that ball. You can tell from this picture, if you can see her face, how determined, how focused she is. She was not going to let anything or anyone get in the way of her between her and that basket. And as I watched this unfold, it dawned on me that we need that sharp laser focus to get to any goal we have. This is the kind of focus that blocks out every single thing but our goal. There's no opponent, there's no obstacle, there's no thought that can get in the way. And by the way, you don't have to believe every thought you have. It's so easy to talk ourselves out of our own victory. When we entertain thoughts or distractions and activities, they could be good thoughts, they could be bad thoughts, what have you, they get us off track. But I often use Alexandra's determination and her focus as inspiration for myself. And it's important to understand that focus is as much about what you're not thinking about. I can tell you in this photo what she wasn't thinking about. She wasn't thinking about her Facebook likes or who unfollowed her on Instagram or her victories or her failures last week, last year, even yesterday for that matter. She wasn't thinking about politics or world peace or what needed to be on her grocery list or who won the Super Bowl or what her hair looks like, which when you're 14, that's kind of a big deal, or what her friends were thinking about her. all the other things on her to-do list, the dozens of emails in her inbox, tomorrow's board presentation, the latest news on LinkedIn. See, there's so many things to distract us. There's so many things to get us off focus. But she had one thing on her mind, and that was that basketball net. That was her goal. And God help you if you got between her and that goal. She was going to use her body, her arms. She didn't care to push you out of the way. So my question to you today is, what is your goal? What would change your mind if you accomplished it? What would change your world? What would totally radicalize everything in your world? Imagine what laser focus, if it applied to your business, to your sales, to your life, to any goal you have. What could you accomplish with laser focus? Now, you may not know this, but 95% of people admit that they struggle with focus. So we're not alone. But today, I want to focus on the how to focus. And according to some recent stats that you might have heard, in our culture today, we have the attention span of a goldfish. That's 9 seconds. Now, 9 seconds is not enough to get us to our goals. So what I want to do today is tackle some really practical tips that will help you create an atmosphere, some strategies, some tricks to be able to focus and maintain focus for a period of time, obviously more than 9 seconds, long enough so that we can accomplish our goals. And of course, I'd like to show you how we empower and strengthen your focus on your business and your sales follow-up in Occupancy Advantage. But first, let's define focus in a very simple and practical way. I'm a simple person, and this makes a lot of sense to me. Focus has been defined as follow one course until successful. I really like that simple definition because it captures the essence of focus. One thing, persistently, consistently, until you get what you're after. Now, we understand that we can only focus at one thing at a time. Now, no matter how much you think you can multitask and you can do many things at one time, we're only fooling ourselves. Let's be fair. Let's be honest. But let's demonstrate that. Humor me for a second and play along. Extend your right arm all the way out in front of you. Go ahead and do it. Now put your thumb up in the air like Will Smith here. Now I want you to take a look at your thumb. Focus on it. Look only at your thumb. What does everything else look like? Well, it looks out of focus. Now break your focus just for a second and start looking around. Notice when you do, your thumb gets blurry. That's why it's so critical to pick one thing, the one thing to focus on at a time. Now, the silver lining about focusing on one thing is that you get what you focus on. We move towards our focus. That's why negativity or fear manifests typically in bad things, but people who expect good tend to experience good things. It's also why you may have noticed that when you go on a diet and you think only about food, if you focus too much on the food long enough, well, for me, things don't go so well. Now, since as a culture we've proven that we can't seem to maintain focus and willpower for a whole year, hence the failure of so many New Year's resolutions, one secret to focus on is what we call time compression, or the 12-week year method, shorter period of time. As it turns out, we're able to buckle down and go harder for shorter periods of time, so we might as well leverage it. Now, I'm currently reading this book, The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. I highly recommend it. It's a great book. It's available on Amazon. And our company is actually in the process of tackling a big product launch using those strategies. But I'll explain more about that in a moment. Most focus targets don't require 12 weeks, though. Some are only 12 days, and most of the time it's just a portion of your day. In any case, I have found some hacks that make the process of focusing much more productive for me, and I dare say even fulfilling. And I'd like to share some of those focus hacks with you. They've really helped me, and maybe they'll be of help to you as well. The first focus hack is to remove all distractions. Yes, by all, I mean all. That means silencing your phone, closing all the applications on your desktop, including your email, all those open tabs of Google and Internet Explorer that you have going on that aren't related directly to the target of your focus. Even Facebook. Yes, I said it. Facebook. Close Facebook. Facebook is great at being intrusive and reminding you and try to get you to log back in. So you've got to close it. And you know that temptation to quickly pop into Outlook to check your email. Maybe I'm the only person who has that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Completely close anything that might tempt you or divert you or distract you to take a break, even for a second, because it only takes a second to get our attention. And this takes discipline, so I typically have to close my door. We know multitasking doesn't work, and maybe that's why as a culture we have the attention span of 9 seconds, like a goldfish. Maybe it's because we're trying to multitask, and that's what's creating it. Another hack is to clear your desk. Now, in college, I had a reputation that may still be true today. My roommates used to say that they always knew I had a paper due or a test due the next day because my room was clean. And I'll admit it was avoidance. Yes, it was procrastination. But I do believe that it's a really good idea to have all your visual distractions out of the way when you're focusing. So put everything out of sight and out of mind if you can. Another great hack is to use an online timer. I like the ones that show you the countdown so you can see and be fully aware of the time ticking away. Like that. You can find these online timers for free like this one. There's just something powerful and motivating about watching the timer wind down. For me, it creates a sense of urgency, just like that alarm did at the end. Sorry about that, folks. Another hack that I use is to play music without words. Now, by music without words, I mean don't even play instrumentals to songs that have words that you might already know, because if you're like me, you'll find yourself humming the tune. Now, Mozart classical music is my music of choice when I'm pounding it out. I've actually created a Mozart station on Pandora. I read that listening to classical music helps you be more creative and helps you concentrate. And I do think it works. So when people hear Mozart coming from my office, they know not to stop by. And now, of course, if your focused project is to make calls, obviously you don't want to play your music or you don't want to play it very loud. You also need to decide what's negotiable in advance and what's non-negotiable. So what I suggest is keep a list by your phone or your computer. Now, whenever a thought comes in that you absolutely have to do right away or you'll forget it, or maybe it's a thought that would normally have sidetracked you, write it down. In 99% of the cases, it can wait until you finish your focus time. And when somebody shows up at your door, and I know they mean well, but your door was closed and they just come in and say, listen, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but tell them really politely that you're right in the middle of a timed, what I call a jam session, or a deadline, and you promise to find them as soon as you're done. Now, unless aliens are invading, this is usually acceptable. Another hack I use is to set goals and reward yourself. So, for example, tell yourself, when I finish making these 50 calls, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, I'm going to stretch, I'm going to go for a walk, I'll check my email, or if you're like me, you're going to have a piece of chocolate as your reward. It really works for me. That's my personal favorite. And don't, under any circumstances, reward yourself until you make that goal. Have some integrity with yourself. I know it's easy to cheat, but the flip side is after you go through a stretch of really focused time, you really have to take a break. They often refer to this as the run-rest cycle. And there's a lot of science behind it. It's well documented by professional athletes that you have to rest and recover. You know, you want to create focus blocks or a block that works for you. Maybe it's a 12-week year that I talked about earlier, like what our company is doing right now. So here's the story. We are launching a new service product. There are 4 people on this project launch team. And the goal of the project is, shall we say, aggressively optimistic, which is our nice way of saying our goals are cray-cray. Now, what we've done is we've broken up our goal into 3 milestones of 5 weeks apiece. Each week and each 4-week milestone has a goal. We're trying to meet regularly, usually if we can every morning, and sometimes even in the evening, to assess our progress and tweak anything that needs to be tweaked. We're really pushing the limits on this goal. So our slogan is pedal to the metal. Speaking of which, another truth that we hold on to is you can't control the results. All you can do is control your activity. So it's really important that your activity is productive, not just activity for the sake of activity. And of course, make sure that you do the activity, that it actually gets done. That's why we're tweaking as often as every day. We want to make sure that our activity is moving us in the right direction. We don't have time for mistakes when you're moving this fast. And I believe that the results will take care of themselves. So yesterday, I overheard a conversation in the hallway. It was between 2 of the people on our launch team. The one guy was talking about the results he was getting and the feedback he was getting as part of this. And the other lady said to him, wow, isn't that refreshing to see results that quickly? So isn't that cool? They're already starting to see results just from crunching and compressing time and really focusing. Now, maybe out of necessity or not, you, for example, give yourself 2 days to do a project that would normally take 2 weeks, which is what I did in preparing for this webinar. Because of our current blitz, I didn't have the normal 2 weeks I would spend researching, writing, creating the visuals, rehearsing the webinar over time. I normally spend a boatload of hours spread out, but I had to force myself to compress it into 2 days. So hopefully this works out for us and you and us together. Granted, now I worked late into the wee hours last night and I hit it again early in the morning, but it works for me. Which brings me to the topic of negotiation. I had to negotiate with my colleagues, with my family, with my friends to get the focus time and the solitude that I needed to pull this off during such a compressed period of time. And yes, of course, I missed some cool conversations, I missed some meetings, and I missed out on some interactions and some family time. But I know that if I want to reach my goals, I have to say no to a lot of good things in order to say yes to great things. And that, for me, is worth it. One of the side benefits of this focus time is that you're more productive because you stay in the zone. Stopping and starting over and over again wastes my time, frustrates me. It's kind of like your car's highway mileage versus your city driving mileage. It takes a lot more energy to stop and start short distances than it does to get up to speed and stay there for a long distance and be efficient. So let me prove it to you. I'm going to give you 9 seconds. I want you to take a look at this picture. What do you see? A young princess? All right. 9 seconds are going, gone. Let's move on. Maybe you set aside 90-minute jam sessions once or twice a day to focus on your goals. No, not that type of jam session. This type of jam session. I love jam sessions. Can you tell? This is one of my favorite strategies. I try to do it once a day when I can. For a while there, I was doing it every day. And I find that 90-minute jam sessions, this kind, first thing in the morning work best for me, before the day has a chance to derail me. Otherwise, it might be hours before I'm able to do a jam session, if I even get to one at all that day. Now, sometimes I'll make lists of smaller goals that I want to accomplish during my jam session, my 90-minute jam session, if I don't have a big one to take up the whole time. Like maybe I put together a list of I need to call these people, I need to write this article, etc., etc. And can I make a confession to you? I've actually found myself looking forward to my 90-minute jam sessions because it's so fulfilling. I feel so accomplished and I'm so happy with myself when I get it done. It really beats the heck out of leaving at the end of the day feeling frustrated that I was so busy, I did so much, but I have nothing to show for it. After a very productive jam session, I've been known to grab my purse, head out the door, and explain to anyone who will listen, I've done so much good today. I did a great job. I get to keep my job one more day. See you tomorrow. Now, what if your job doesn't work that way? What if your role is more reactive and you can't really control your schedule? It's a great excuse. I've used it myself over and over again. But I found that the reality is we've all been given the same 24 hours, whether we're rich or poor or famous or not. And I promise you, there is some area of your life you can apply this to, whether it's work, which is the context we're sharing here today, or in your personal life and exercise and food prep, family time, date night, pretty much anything. You just have to be willing to decide what you're willing to give up. Now, since we're primarily managers and sales and marketing people on today's call, let's apply this concept, the power of focus, to something very practical and near and dear to our hearts, something that directly impacts our bottom line and our success in business and even our pocketbook. And that is my favorite topic, follow-up. Executing follow-up is one of those things that just doesn't do so well when you stop and start. You have to get into the zone, and then you have to put yourself in your prospect's shoes and brainstorm, so where is this person in the process? What can I do to help them move along their buying journey? It sounds easy, but it can burn up a lot of brain cells trying to evaluate each situation on its own, figure out what's best to do next, what have others used, what have I done in the past that worked. So let me break away here for a second. Remember that young princess? Let's go back and look at her again. Take a closer look at her. I'm going to give you more than 9 seconds this time. Now, focus for 9 seconds. Do you see an old lady there? Look harder. A little closer. Now, many of you who have focused on this picture can see her now. It just takes time and focus. What about now? You see an old lady now? Pretty cool, huh? Just for fun, here's another one. Do you see a frog? Or do you see a horse head? Or do you see both? Focusing on follow-up. Not having focused time to figure out the best strategy for each prospect is one of the reasons that people simply don't do their follow-up consistently. They mean well, but like I said earlier, life gets in the way. Now, we've talked in depth about specific and detailed follow-up strategies and activities in last month's webinar, No Lead Left Behind. So if you'd like a copy of that recording, just send us a chat. We'll be happy to send it to you. Now, here's my disclaimer. In full disclosure, I'm contractually obligated to show you how we crush follow-up failure and occupancy advantage and empower you to focus on the high-value follow-up activities that get you to your goals. Of course, I'm just kidding about being contractually obligated, but I am excited to share it with you because I've never seen this anywhere else. However, I have seen how well it works and how effective this strategy is for improving the frequency of your follow-up, the quality of your follow-up, and the timeliness of your follow-up. But enough talk, let me show it to you. So here's the thing. In every sales opportunity, whether that's an opportunity for a move-in or a new resident or a relationship with a referral source or an opportunity to serve a client with one of your services, there's ultimately a goal. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, that the goal here is a new move-in. In most cases, there are milestones. These are smaller steps on the way to that goal. These milestones are really important benchmarks, but they're not always set in stone. They could be skipped if they're not necessary. Maybe the resident is ready to go straight to an agreement, or it may not happen all in the same order, depending on what we call the buyer's journey. Now, we did a webinar on that too. If you'd like that, let us know. We'd be happy to send you that recording. But we borrowed a line from one of our clients that says, sales is not a linear process. Things happen. that impact the buyer's journey. There might be a delay because they're on vacation or they're out of town, or it might get accelerated because of health problems or issues. Absolutely anything can happen along the way, and you have to be ready for it and able to adjust. Now, these milestones in the goal can contain a set of frequently used actions, tasks, follow-up activities, things that are designed to keep your prospect engaged or your family member and guide them through to reach that milestone. These are the common tasks that frequently come up time after time for each milestone. And essentially, they become a library of tools or sometimes a checklist of follow-up suggestions that you can refer to when you're doing your follow-up. And of course, they're different depending on who you're working with. Now, by preparing these follow-up steps in advance and queuing them up ahead of time, you can have them all ready, pre-written, spell check, grammatically correct, and ready to take off the shelf when you need them and use them. So here's what this whole goal and milestone thing looks like in Occupancy Advantage. From your home screen, you can click on your A prospect, in this case, Robert Wagner, very handsome man, and you can see what goals are available, who you want to assign it to. We're going to pick the move-in goal here. And we can go in and look at the details of that milestone and what the actions are by expanding it. So under each milestone, you can see all the different follow-up suggestions in there. Take a look at them, go, okay, we want to go with a visit milestone, and the system through, it actually keeps track of what's most effective. Start to have, you can have multiple goals to choose from. So maybe you have different ones for prospects or for family members or for referral sources or pretty much any kind of contact that you want to systemize your follow-up with. It's just a lot easier to see all of your available options and select from one than try to recreate the wheel every time and come up with a unique follow-up activity and try to remember which ones you've already used on that prospect. Or it just saves a lot of thinking and burning up of brain cells. I also believe that there is a certain perceptible, relaxed confidence that you exude when you know what you're doing. I believe that a lot of people come off sounding like salespeople simply because of lack of confidence. Maybe it's in their own ability or in what they're doing. But we'll talk about that on a future webinar. We found that experienced managers love this goal-driven follow-up because it allows them to easily onboard and train newbies on how to do follow-up. It kind of gives them a toolbox of predefined, recommended follow-up actions, call scripts, emails, even verbiage for their email or verbiage to write on their handwritten note so they don't have to think about it. Saves a lot of thinking time, frustration, and mistakes in follow-up, and making follow-up more timely because people don't get stuck in the mud. Also, managers love it because newbies are following the same follow-up procedures that their experienced people are doing, so they're getting a lot better results and they're ramping up a lot quicker. Managers also have the ability to run reports that show what prospects and contacts are. This one is a progress report on goals. So we'll take a look at what that looks like. We're going to do the move-in goal. We're going to pick all account executives. And this shows everybody who's on that goal, where they're at in the process, what's been done, who they're assigned to, all in black and white. Actually in blue too. The blue just indicates, and we're picking leads that are not being for our activity out of your meetings. Now, one of these, trying to keep track of all the things that you do or you need to do in your head. You know, I find that when you're trying to keep track of all these things in your head, it takes up a lot of mental real estate, creates noise in your head, keeps you up at night, and it fractures your attention. Now, we already know the benefits of keeping detailed lists and checking off your completed tasks. Actually, science has shown that you get an endorphin rush when you check off a completed task, which is a really cool thing. Now, Franklin Planner was the leader in time management in the late 80s and 90s. I don't know if any of you are old enough. I guess I'm showing my age here. But it was a great system. Does anybody remember Franklin Planner? You know, in fact, I still have some of those binders at my house during significant times or trips that I took, and I kept those notes because I can't bear to part with them. Franklin Planner is a great system to help keep you organized and stay focused. I think of it as the early predecessor to the CRM, and it certainly proved the merits of having a follow-up plan. But even the Franklin Planner had a flaw, in my opinion. That flaw for me is that it was paper-based, which meant that every day you had to manually rewrite all the things you didn't accomplish the day before and move them forward to the next day. I had a couple of problems with that. One, it wasn't the most motivating way to start the day by recapping what I didn't accomplish the day before, all of my failures, if you will. And two, it took up precious time to rewrite that list every day. And frankly, sometimes I just didn't do it. Don't tell anybody. Now, in Occupancy Advantage, what we do is we eliminate that problem by giving you a fresh list of your tasks on your home screen every morning when you log in. Everything's already laid out for you. No head scratching, no nail biting. Don't even have to clean out the refrigerator first. You can even check off the tasks you complete and get that same rush of endorphin. I love that. So imagine now if you had that 90-minute jam session in the morning to knock out your follow-up. You'd have for marketing, for lead generation, for prospecting, for writing thank you notes to all your new residents, and for me, for having a piece of chocolate. You know, a system like Occupancy Advantage is a really powerful tool to help senior living providers leverage and maximize your focus, because that's what it's all about. The goals and milestones I just showed you are just one example of how, like a good tool, Occupancy Advantage does the heavy lifting for you. So your focus can be laser sharp, productive, and efficient. Now, Occupancy Advantage is a systematic engine that really generates a constant supply of high-quality internet leads that senior living providers want and need. And the automation and the suggested follow-up nudges that ensure the highest number of those leads become new residents. Right before I came in here today, Carmen handed me a statistic that I'd like to read for you. It's actually amazing. It's totally independent, and it says, according to the Annuitas Group, which is a third-party research group, after implementing marketing automation, the average company gets a 77% increase in revenue and a 53% higher customer sales conversion rate. And that's not even talking about the sales follow-up automation. This is just marketing automation. That's huge. That's a big impact. But the truth is, I'm not here today to pitch Occupancy Advantage to you. I'm here to show you some of the hacks that we found to maximize your ability to focus. Now, however, if you're interested in seeing how Occupancy Advantage would systemize your community's marketing automation, your sales follow-up automation, we'd be delighted to help you. No question. Just let us know you're interested. But I'd like to kind of wrap up today by asking you, what is your goal? Imagine the laser focus that we talked about today. Imagine applying that to your business, to your life, to pretty much any goal that you have. What would you be capable of? Now, as you know, I love to end on a bit of inspiration. And I really enjoy reading about and studying some of the most inspirational people who've ever walked the earth. And if you've followed me before, you know that I love Albert Einstein. He's definitely one of them. Now, I'm inspired by something that I just recently read about Albert. Albert Einstein is said to have focused every morning hard on getting all of his work done in the very first hour of the day so he could spend the rest of the day thinking. Wow. As far as I'm concerned, if making focus a priority was good enough for Albert Einstein, it's certainly good enough for me. Well, thank you so much for sharing part of your day with me. If we can be of any help to you, please contact me. But as I wrap up, I want to share with you another clip by another genius that inspires me, Elon Musk. Until next month, I enjoy this video. Stay focused on your goals, and I'll see you here same time next month. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, I am committed to focus. This is my actual desktop, just so you know.
The houses you see around you are all solar houses. I don't know if you know that. Did you notice?